lot of videos out there showing the power of Power Virtual Agents, but but most of so what Power Virtual Agent is, let's talk about that first before we dive into the actual development, right? So Power Virtual Agent um, is a UI tool that where you can build your virtual agents, or we call it as chatbots, and it's a low code no code solution where you can just drag drop things and connect your questions. You add your questions. You can call Power Automate. You can ask questions. You can capture the answers and then provide the response back to the user, right? So that is what Power Virtual Agent is. And what are the benefits of using Power Virtual Agent? So it reduces or it eliminates the gap between the SMEs and the dev team. So the idea behind creating this Power Virtual Agent by Microsoft was that to the empower your team or your functional consultants or functional people to just go in and then create the bots, because they are the one who knows what the business is, what is expected of the bots, right? So they can easily go in and then create this logic for the bots. Because it eliminates the dev team, because developers are expensive, right? So it reduces overall cost as well. And then the power goes to the SMEs. And then it also minimizes the IT efforts. So now the IT or the developers can focus on bigger things, right? So we don't have to do this bot creation using low code, no code. The SMEs can do it. And then we can focus on bigger things, bigger pictures behind the scenes, right? So that's the idea of Power Virtual Agents. So why use chatbots? So as I said, it gives the power to the SMEs to create the bot logic. It uses an easy authoring canvas, which makes it easier for the SMEs to build the, uh, the the logic for the chatbots, right? So that's why it is empowering the subject matter experts. It gives a rich and natural language ability to the user. So whenever the user is interacting with the chatbots, the conversation is in the natural language. So they don't have to type in some code. It's pretty easy to use for the users as well. And also bots can enable actions. They can invoke backend processes on behalf of the users, which reduces the time and effort it takes to achieve simple jobs like placing an order, right? So if say it's a pizza bot, so if you want to place an order, you just go through some of the options that will pop up and select those options and then say place an order. The order would be sent to the department, the backend team who is actually going to make the pizza, right? So that's the power of using chatbots. So what are the key concepts in Power Virtual Agents? So what we have is we have something called the system topics, which are provided uh, by the system, by the Power Virtual Agent. You cannot delete them. You can deactivate them, but you cannot delete them. You can change. Well, you cannot even deactivate them. You cannot deactivate. You cannot delete them. You can change them if you want. You can invoke them if you want from your user topics, which is the second part, which we call it as user topics. So you can provide your own user topics, but the system topics will still be there. Now, topics are nothing but the what is the purpose, or what are the trigger points for your chatbots to trigger, right? So like ordering a pizza becomes a topic. Placing an order for a laptop becomes a topic, right? So those are the topics. And then every time you create topics, whenever you're capturing the inputs from the users, then that inputs could be in terms of cities or in terms of numbers or whatever the inputs are. Those becomes the entities, right? So that's why we have the third concept called as entities in Power Virtual Agent. And then finally, when the bot is ready, it's going to be published, or it's going to be channeled through uh, some user interfaces, because you develop a bot, but you have to put it somewhere, right? So that is called channels. So that is what our focus is going to be in today's session. So we're going to look at channels, right? And there are different type of channels. So there is a website, mobile, Facebook, MS Teams, and there are a lot of other things that you can see on the screen where you can actually deploy your bot and make it available for the users to use it. And most of the things are provided by the Power Virtual Agent UI. So you just have to go in the channels and then just integrate. The integration is pretty easy. And they also give you the ability to integrate into website as well. And today's focus is how to know how can we enhance the UI that gets shown on the website. So our focus is only going to be website from all the different channels. So let's go and take a look. Okay. So what I've done here is I'm going to go through some of the concepts first before we dive into the actual demo. So first we have the system topics, and as I said, you'll have multiple system topics. You don't have the ability to turn them off. You don't have ability to delete them. The only thing is you can go and change them. So you can go to the authoring tool and then change the system topics. But these are the ones that comes in each and every Power Virtual Agent. Then you have the user topics. Now in the user topics, when you first create your Power Virtual Agent environment, then you get 4 topics, and then it provides you a guide of how to use it. So it gives you this simple topic with a condition, with conditions and variables, and then with the custom entity. So you can go through them by just clicking on this authoring canvas, or you can even click on them, and it would open up the lesson, and then it gives you this trigger phrases. Okay, and mostly I just turn them off. Once I've practiced them enough, I'll turn them off, or maybe I can just keep them or delete them as well. I like to keep them just in case if I want to go back and then relearn something that I've not done before. So I like to keep them until I finalize my bot. And then you can create new topics from here, and then you just give the title, and then you give the trigger phases, right? So you can give PCF init, and then you just keep on clicking how to initialize PCF, like that. So you can keep on clicking. Once you're done with your triggering phases, you save the topic, and then once you save it, that's when the authoring canvas will show up. Then you can go to authoring canvas and start typing the messages, start typing in the, you can ask the questions, you can go to other topics, you can even call the action. So there are a lot of things here, but that is not what our focus is going to be today, right? So we're going to go back to the topics again, and I've created a topic called things to do, and I just want to show you how I have authored it. So my trigger phases are going to be couple of them: attractions, itinerary, plan trip, and things to do. And then some message gets displayed. Then the questions has been asked to the user, and based on the response, we are either going to trigger the New York City conditions, or Paris or London conditions, and then an action gets called, which gets the which takes the request and then sends back the response. And then we are just showing that markdown. So it's returning a markdown. So we are just showing the markdown in the message, and then that's the end of the conversation. That's it. Pretty simple topic. And now think of a scenario where this topic was created by your SME or by someone who's actually developing the bot. And now once they develop it, what they're going to do is they're going to go to publish, and they're going to publish the bot. Once they've published the bot, they're going to go to manage section, and then let's say they want to integrate it with some of the channels. So they can not integrate, but basically provide them with the code. So if you click on custom website, you get this code. So it's a pretty simple iframe code which gets displayed to you. And what SMEs could do is they can either share it via email or just copy and paste it and then send it to you, right? But what happens? Let's see. So what I've done is I've taken this code and I've embedded it in one of the HTML web page. So let's say that you have developed a web page, or there's a company web page that you're developing, and you got the code from your SME, right? Now that code, we're going to come to the questions later on. Okay, so what happens is you get the embedding code, and then you take that code, that iframe code that I just showed. So if you click here, you get this iframe code over here, right? So you take this iframe code and then say, okay, I'm just gonna paste this in the website. Now, once you paste it in the website, it looks like this. Okay, and it doesn't look like it's part of the website. It doesn't. You don't have more any kind of ability to customize it, and because it's an iframe, right? It's embedding on the existing web page. So what I did is, instead of taking that iframe, I converted that into a div tag. There are some scripts that were provided by Microsoft for mobile applications. I took those scripts, but then instead of using it on mobile phones, I tried to use it on the website, right? So what you do is, so here is what I've provided a button, right? So normally when you go on most of the website, you would see that on the right hand corner there would be a button where the chat appears and then disappears, right? So this is the same thing. So what we're going to build today is ultimately is this. So we're going to add a button. Now on click of the button, the window gets shown, and this is the same bot. So this is the same bot. So if I type in here things to do, so it shows me the options, right? Now, as you can see, okay, so now let me compare here. So things to do, okay. As you can see, so let's compare this, right? So let's compare this. The font is different, right? The icons, there's no way you can change the icon. This would be, if you're embedding as an iframe, then you cannot change this. You cannot change this. Whereas if you're doing it via div tags and via the scripts that we are going to look today, we can actually change the images as well. I kept the same thing here because it's an anonymous user image, so it's good. But I changed this to my image, right? And then if you look down here, top three. So top three, see how it looks like bold, and then the font is not matching the font that is used throughout the website. And yeah, the buttons also do not match the styles that we have used. What I did here is I actually did some transparency thing as well, so it looks pretty neat, pretty modern, but it also looks part of the website. And because this is a floating button, and because this was a single page application, it stays consistent, right? So now you can see if I go to home, because of transparency, it looks good. If I go to blog, then yeah, transparency looks good. And there's a little bit of transparency here as well. So it really matches the theme of the website. That's what the intention is to do. Okay. So let's go and see how we can do this. Okay, so for this, what you have to do is, so this is my website. This is my entire website code, right? On this website code, I have the index.html, and because it's a single page application, I only have index.html. I don't have anything else. And then within this, I have the JavaScript, and I have CSS. Today, we are not going to write any JavaScript. We are just going to look at the index.html, what we can do over here, and then we are going to look at the CSS files. Okay, so in the index.html, on the presentation slides, I've also provided this link, so I can just paste this. Sorry, wrong slide. Let me paste this link over here. That is where I cannot copy it for now. Copy. Nope, I don't get the option. But I'll paste that link to you. So what this link is, I've provided the link which gives you the code. So if you click on that link, you will be taken to this gist that I've created on GitHub, and it gives you the code that you need. So it gives you the HTML code and it gives you the CSS code. Okay, you can tweak it as per your needs, but the idea is that you would at least have some starter code that you can use, and you don't have to type everything from scratch or keep looking at this presentation every time to build your bot, right? So that was the idea. So let's take a look what we have here. So because it's my single page application, the code that I'm going to build, first thing is this code is static. So I'm going to copy the code from here. So this particular code was shared by Microsoft a while back for mobile applications, how to do it on mobile applications. And what this code does is it's pretty simple. So it has this style options. So these style options are nothing but the options that you're going to provide to your bot. Okay, it has a hide upload button if you want to hide or show the upload button. This is the image that I was talking about, where you can change the image of your bot avatar and your user avatar, right? So you can change the images. You can either give link like HTTP link, or you can even do a base64 encoded image as well. So if you want to embed your image using base64 encode image, you can use this URL to encode the images. Now, once you have provided the style options, then next thing is you provide your bot ID. So every bot has a bot ID. So if we go back to our Power Virtual Agent and go to the channel, the iframe code that was provided to you, let's say from your SME, you would see that the link already has a bot ID in it. So this is the bot GUID that we are talking about. So you have to copy this bot ID and then paste it over here on your bot ID. And this is the generic code. So you just provide the style options, you provide the bot ID, and then it would just go and render the bot for you. But if you just put it anywhere on the HTML, it's not going to render properly. So let's go and copy this code and see what happens. Okay, so I have another website created. Okay, so now you can see there's nothing over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this code anywhere. Because it's a single page application, what I've done is I've created, these are all li tags, and everything is in a div tag, right? So in here, so you can see there's a navigation div tag here, and there's a footer here. So everything is divided into div tags and a nav tag. So I'm just going to paste it here and see how the UI would look like. Save it and then run it. Let's see. Still running. While it's running, let me see if I can answer some of the questions. How can you get the current user details in preview? Do you mean the logged in user? Yeah, so for logged in user, I'm going to answer that question at the end of the session. So let's come back to that. So yeah, so now you see that the bot was the code that we added got added over here, right? It's saying unable to connect because we didn't provide the bot ID, right? We have to provide the bot ID so that it will not render it like this. Now, it just renders as a div tag on top of all the other div tags that I have. I want to make sure that this renders properly right over here, right? So now the bot is ready and we just have to provide the bot ID. Where to show it and how it should look like, it all depends on the CSS. So it's just copy pasting the code, and it's a generic code, so you don't have to do anything with it. Just paste this, and then and once you paste it, you provide your bot ID. So let's go and provide the bot ID. Copy. Okay, and then my bot ID is ready. My bot avatar, I'm gonna keep it null, or maybe provide the one that I already used before. Copy that link. And the second image, I'm going to provide a base64 encoded image. Okay. So I have the bot image and the user image. Okay, so that's it. So now my bot would render properly, but it won't render the way I want it to render. Right? I want it to show show it here, right over here. So to do that, I've also provided to you the CSS. Okay, so now this how to go around with the CSS. So let's go and look at the code first. So in the code, as you can see, we have a class called chat popup. Then we have the role called open chat, and then we have some other roles called as role main, and yeah, that's it. So role main, role open chat. Now, open chat is the class chat popup is what makes is what we are going to use to show or hide the entire div tag. So this entire div tag is going to be we have to determine whether we have to show it or hide it based on this class. So first thing is we're going to hide it. Let's go and do that, right? So we're going to go to our CSS class, and the CSS class I'm going to use is this one. Okay. And then I'm going to copy I'm just going to put the chat pop-up as display none. Save it, and let's go and run this. So, and this is local debugging. I'm not pushing this to Azure yet. And now you can see that the bot, I'm not able to see the bot. Okay, it won't show because I've given display as none. Right now, initially we would want it to be shown. So let's put block for now, and then we'll change it later. The reason why we want to do it is because we want to make sure that the bot is shown on the right exact, like the way where we want it to be, right? So now go back to the index file. Oh, there you go, index file. So now we have this role main. Now, whenever you have this role main, what we are doing is we are adding this attribute called as web chat. Okay. The reason why I was doing this is because when I was using the same code in Power Portals, then the if I was providing, so I wanted to provide some ID over here. So I was giving ID equal to. So whenever I used to do this, for some reason, Power Portal was never saving the ID on this particular div tag when it used to load. So whenever it used to load, this ID used to just go away, vanish, right? So to make sure that I always have an ID on this div tag, what I did is I used this query called as document.querySelector, and then I'm looking only for the uh, tags that have role as main, and then I'm setting the attribute as ID as webjet. Okay, so that we can use this ID to render the bot in CSS. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. In the coming back to our CSS, we're going to add this web chat ID, and then we are going to provide some CSS. So the CSS says, okay, the position is going to be fixed, and then I'm fixing the position based on top and right, because I know where I want my bot to, or where I want my bot to display, what its width it is going to be, and then height I'm actually doing a dynamic height, so I'm calculating it based on the actual height of the screen, and then doing some pixel modification because my footer is going to be of a static height, right? So now I save this, and let's go and play this again and see where our bot goes gets displayed. Okay, so there you go. It looks neat and clean, right? But it is always shown. Okay, and now let's go and compare to what we had before. So what we had here is we had some transparency. We were able to change everything inside the bot as well. So like you can see, there's some transparency over here. It's not visible here, but yeah, you can see there's some transparency over here. There's a lot of transparency over here. I changed these, how the button gets rendered, and I was able to change everything. The reason I was able to do that is because if I go back to code and back to index.html, now this div tag is very needed. It's a blank div tag. If you see it has nothing in it, this particular div tag, but we need this because how the code works is when the bot is getting rendered, it looks for anything with role as main, and then renders that div tag with the bot. Now when it renders the div tag with the bot, inside that main div, there are multiple div tags that are created by the Microsoft JavaScript that gets that renders that bot, right? So if you go and look at if you debug this, let's go and inspect this. Inspect. And now if you're inspecting it, so this is our main, right? This is a role with the main with ID as web chat. And now if you can see, there's a div tag inside that main div tag, right? And now each div tag has a role assigned to it. So there's a role called as complementary. Then there's a role, so this one doesn't have a role. Oh yeah, there's a role. So there's a role called as log. So this is the log where the log gets displayed. So if I type in things to do, okay, still sending the data. Normally it doesn't take that much time, but yeah, there you go. So now, if I highlight this is the log section. The entire section is the log section. This one, okay, it's called log. Then you have, oh, there are two logs. Okay, never mind. Okay, so this is the log section that I was talking about. So now I can change I can add additional CSS classes to this div section because there's a role defined to it. Then there's a role called as forms, which is the bottom section. And inside this forms, again, there are two sections. One is called the status section where the button gets displayed. And then there's a section called as main. But inside this main, you have the form, which has the input section. And the input section again has the, data ID. And it has a div tag with a button class in it. So you have, so what you could do is you could use div tag with the class main, and you can assign a role to it because it's easier to find all the div tags inside it, right? Okay, so that's what the structure looks like. Now let's go and look at the CSS. Now, now take a note, right? So we're going to change the log. We're going to change the log, how it gets displayed. We are going to change the status, right? How it gets displayed. And then we are going to do some of the changes to the form. There is a form. Where is the form? Oh yeah, there you go. And the form. Okay, so these are the changes that we're going to do. So let's go and do that. Using this and how to make that happen. So in your CSS, what you would do is you would first go and so I'm going to paste some of the div tags. So these are the div tags that you would paste. So div, then the role, complementary, and then whatever you want to change inside that role. So complementary was the biggest piece, right? So the entire div tag inside the main tag is transparent. Then you have the form tag, which is the bottom section, right, where the type where you're typing the messages, where the buttons are getting shown. That is the form section. Then you have the log section where the actual messages get shown. So you're changing the background of that. You can change the color. You can change a lot of other stuff. Then there's a status. Status is nothing but where the button are shown. Okay, so inside that form, you also have two sections. One is the status, and then the other one is where there is a div tag with the class main. But we are just changing the status section, right? Yeah, we want it to look a little different, and then we are giving some styling to the buttons. Okay, that's what we're doing here. So once you save this, and then let's go and play it. It's rendering. There you go. So it rendered, right? So now, as you can see, it has little transparency. And then there's a lot of transparency over here. This for some reason doesn't look the way I wanted it to look, but that's fine. We'll see what we are missing here. Maybe I'm missing something. So that's it, right? Now coming back to comparing between this and this. In the entire CSS, I did not provide what my font is going to look like, what my font size is going to be, and all the other stuff around fonts, because that would be too much, right? If we have to configure each and everything, that would be too much. But as you can see, the fonts still look different, still are looking different. The reason is because this is an iframe, it doesn't inherit the CSS properties that are already added to your website, right? Whereas because this is a div tag, all the elements, if you're using a Bootstrap or any CSS classes or CSS style sheets that you have defined for the entire website, all those styles, if you're defined for, like, say, buttons, how the buttons should look like, or what the font of the entire website should be, right? If you have defined that, then those properties do get inherited on this tags as well. And that is the nicest thing. So now I don't have to control the font size, the font weight, what the font family should be, all those kind of small things. You don't have to worry about it. You just have to worry about the overall display, because all the other properties will be inherited by the controls. So that's the nicest thing in doing this, right? Okay, so going back here, and yeah, so now what we have is we have the chatbot, but we don't have the button yet. So let's go and add the button. Right, so to add the button, I'm going to add the button on top because I'm going to create a floating button anyway. So I'm just adding a button on top somewhere, right? So now if I save it and I play it, it's going to get displayed over here, right? So now we want this button to get displayed somewhere over here, right? Let's do that. So again, the button gets displayed, but we haven't provided the CSS. So again, everything is playing with just with the CSS. So let's go and add some CSS for the button. So I'm just creating a simple style sheet for styling for button. I'm just providing providing some background transparency. I'm providing some Z index to it because I wanted it to be a floating button, and also providing some positions. So position is going to be fixed because even if you scroll, the button should stay exactly where it is. So that's why I'm fixing the position. I'm fixing with my now because this is going to be on the right bottom corner. So I have to provide the bottom and the right so that I can fix the position. And then I'm providing some opacity to it. Okay, so save it and let's execute this. And there you go. The button gets displayed. Okay. And the bot should show up. Why did bot not show up? Okay, there you go. Sometimes it just takes time. Now the bot is always getting showed. We don't want the bot to show all the time because most of the time it should be hidden, and basically it should only show up when user wants to interact. Otherwise it won't give a nice user experience for the users, right? So we want this chat window to open and close whenever the user is clicking this button. So it should be very easy because it's just JavaScript, and then based on the JavaScript, we just have to show and hide hide the control, right? So for that, we are just going to write a JavaScript, and just for simplicity, I'm just going to add the JavaScript right over here. Background noise. So let me mute everyone. Okay, so let's go and add the JavaScript for the button click. So now I have created a button where I've given a function called as open chat, right? So I'm gonna the div tag. I want the script tag. For simplicity, I'm just gonna add the function here itself, but basically you would want to add the function in a JavaScript. Right? But for simplicity purposes, I'm just putting it right over here. Function, and the function name is open chat, and it would take no parameters. And what it would basically do is, so let us see if I have the code already for it. If not, then I can write the code. I don't have the code here. I can provide the code later on. But basically what we are going to do is we're going to check. So how do I check? What is the name of the chat window? Chat, okay. Yeah, chat pop-up, right? So document element by ID. I believe we provided web chat. Web chat dot oh no, that's not what I want. I forgot what the code was. Sorry. Let me hop on to my other gist. I thought I added the code, but I did not add the code there. Ah, there you go. Yeah, so basically what I'm doing is, yeah, I'm using the element chat window. And the chat window is actually coming from the open chat, which is this role, right? The topmost div tag. And I'm just identifying the element by the ID that I'm providing over here. And then I'm just checking the status. So I'm just checking if it is already displayed or not. If it is displayed, if it is not displayed, then I'm changing the style to block, and then the inner HTML, I'm just changing the button name to close, which I don't need in this case. And then if it is this displayed, then I'm just hiding it. Okay, so I'm just changing the style from block to none, none to block. Okay, and then because we initially we are providing the chat pop-up display as block, I'm going to change it to none. So the initial load, it's not going to show up. Okay. Let's go and run this. And now the initial load, the chatbot is not shown, but if you click it, now it gets shown, and then it works exactly the same thing. Now, because this is a single page application, the good thing is if you click on this button, the div tag is just getting hidden. It's not getting disposed of. So even if, say, your user is navigating away, it's going somewhere else, and then if the user clicks on this button, the chat window is still, the chatting that was performed by the user is still preserved, right? So then they can, go through the chat, and then once the response comes back, they close it, they go to home, they open it back up, and then they can continue going through your website and also preserve the conversation. Okay, and yeah, that's it. So let's now everything is done. I'm going to publish it to just to make sure that it's getting published. Let me publish it to Azure. Oh, not create. I want to publish it. Deploy and demo and select. I'm going to publish to this live one, which I was showing where we didn't had anything. So I'm going to display that, publish it to this one that had no buttons on it or had nothing on it. So let's go and deploy it to that website. And it doesn't take that long, but because that always happens when you're demoing, right? Okay, so now while it's deploying, let's go through the questions. Oh, there you go. Got deployed. So let's go and just do a refresh, and then let's see if everything worked fine. Ooh. What happened? Why my bot did not got displayed? Let's go and see. Index. Everything looks good. For some reason, did not deploy everything. Yeah, for some reason it did not deploy everything. Let's go through the questions. So do we have any questions? So one of the questions is from Naresh. How can we get the current user details in PVA? So getting the current user details, I haven't played with it yet, but I know for sure there is a way to get the current user details. You can authenticate the logged in user through some authentication mechanism, which was which just came out recently. So I didn't had a chance to play with it. So I don't have an answer for that, but I can get back to you on it. Oh yeah. So Prashant is saying that we can call a flow to get the user details. I believe so. Yeah. But could be. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that. Any other questions? Well, if there are no further questions, then so you can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, GitHub page, YouTube, and my blog site, which is powermaverick.dev. There's the question. So can we add the PVA image avatar from PVA itself? So if you're using iframes or if you're using any of the other channels, then so if you're using an iframe, then you cannot, because it's embedded into its own, it's sandboxed, right? So you cannot change anything inside the iframe. There is no way you can pass those images in the iframe. So that's why we have to use the div structure to change the images. And you can use any public images in your code. So you just have to give the URL right over here, or as I told, like you can even embed the uh, base 64 encoded image as well. Okay, and yeah, if that's all, then do fill out the survey and then select your favorite speaker so that we can give out prizes for them.
Thanks again, Danish. Again, I wasn't expecting such, an elaborate session. A lot of the PVA sessions I've seen have been just more general sessions about how to configure PVA. But it's really great to see a session that on challenging the practical challenges of implementing it and integrating it into your website. So thanks once again for a highly, highly valuable session on the practical implications of implementing PVA.
Thank you.
And yeah, so Danish, it looks as though we've still got 10 minutes. So before the next session, so do you want me to play our trailer, the Microsoft trailer? Or
Yes.
okay,
Yeah,
great stuff.
let's do that.
Great stuff. So as Danish mentioned, again, we're coming towards the end of the event now. We've got a few sessions still remaining, but it's important for you to complete the survey if you haven't. If you want to be involved in the prizes, and we're looking forward to announcing the prizes today. Danish will be announcing the prizes at the end of the event. So please remember to do that. There's 3 prizes, and I wasn't there, Danish. There's 3 prizes. There's the first prize was a Star Wars Lego. The second prize was a mechanics Lego. And the third prize was by Scott Durrow. It's a crash course on PCF development with Scott Durrow. So there's 3 prizes, isn't there, Danish?
Yes, and to win the Scott Duros prize, whenever you fill out the survey, just mention ProCode NoCode Unite hashtag in any of the comment sections, and then we'll pick the winner at the end of the sessions.
Great stuff. So yeah, so what I'll do is I'm gonna we'll play the short Microsoft message, and then I'll hand it over back to Danish, ready for the next session. Thanks again.
Okay, well, we have one more minute on top of the hour, but I just wanted to introduce David Rivard. He's been doing a lot of PCF work for the community, a lot of good controls he has built, and his topic